Hello everyone. In continuation to our previous discussion on the different steps that are involved in a given iteration, this was a given iteration that we have conducted where we have essentially considered only 11 data points for both x and y. So we have defined a model object. So the model object is being created by making use of the custom class that we have written earlier, which expects all of these inputs. So 13 here is going to be the number of inputs in input layer. 1 here is going to be the number of outputs. 150 could be hyperparameters which define the number of neurons within hidden layer 1 and hidden layer 2. So we have not done the hyperparameter tuning yet. Okay. So these are purely arbitrary values for now. And then we also have created the optimizer object and later conducted this forward pass and backward pass. So forward pass is going to generate all of these predictions with which we observed what our loss could be for that particular iteration. And then finally looked at computing the gradients by using backward propagation. And then updated all of the parameters by using step function pertinent to this particular optimizer object that we have created. Finally zeroed out all the gradients. So now we are going to make use of all of these steps and do the complete model training process. But this time around, I'm considering a batch size of 64. I've increased the batch size from 11 to 64, which is considerable given the number of samples that we are having. So how do we identify the number of samples? So dataset.n samples will provide us the number of samples that are present within our data. If you remember, we already have created this custom dataset class where n samples was one of the attributes that we have defined explicitly. So there are 506 observations. So I wanted to consider a good enough batch size so that in each of the updates, in each of the weight and bias updates, or in each of the gradient computation that basically occurs during backpropagation, there are considerable number of observations that are being taken into. Okay. Now, once we have created this particular data loader object, we are now going to iterate through different mini batches. So essentially we are implementing the mini batch gradient descent process here. So there will be multiple epochs and we are not restricting ourselves to a particular iteration. One epoch can have multiple iterations that I have discussed with you earlier. So the number of iterations is purely dependent on the number of samples as well as the batch size. So the number of samples divided by batch size here is going to produce the number of iterations that can occur for a particular epoch. Likewise, we can have multiple such epochs within our model training process. So we are going to necessarily have two different for loops that we are going to write. One for the number of epochs, another one to iterate over the different batches that we retrieve from this particular data loader object. For every epoch, we read all the data that's presented to the network. So once all the training data, once all the 506 samples are exhausted, then we conclude that that particular epoch is over. So then we move on to the next epoch. Whatever weights and biases that are concluded at the end of the epoch, at the end of the epoch 1 are being carried forward to your epoch 2. Okay. I believe you have got a fair understanding on how this whole thing works here. Okay. So now let's write this particular outer for loop where we are defining the epoch iteration. So for epoch in range of 100, so this again is arbitrary value. I'm defining it as 100 for now. So there are 100 epochs that we are planning to conduct now. So in every epoch, we are now going to have multiple iterations. So iterations are purely defined by the batch size and the number of samples that are present within your data set. And now I'm going to iterate over the data loader object that we already have created, which necessarily informs PyTorch on what could be the number of samples that can be considered for X and Y here. Because we already have provided batch size to be 64. Obviously, there will be 64 observations in X and Y. Cool. So we're now going to enumerate this and then only we'll have this index here. So we are enumerating over this data loader object so as to produce index and pairs of X and Y here, which are stored in a tuple. The first thing that we are going to look at is creating these particular model objects beforehand. So before we begin this model training process, so we are now going to create the model object as well as the optimizer object. So I'll also move this particular data loader statement to the above cell so as to maintain a cleaner code. So let's run this particular statement. And now we have all the necessary objects that are defined before we conduct this training process. So within each iteration, you're now going to generate the predictions by using model.forward for each of the X data that you have considered. So for each of the X data defined within a particular batch or iteration, you're now going to generate the predictions. You are going to make use of all of these predictions in order to generate the MSE value pertinent to that. So we are also defining the loss function here by using nn.msc loss. When nn.msc loss is going to create this particular function here for us. So we are going to make use of this function, pass in the predictions that we have observed, and also the actual y values. So now we are getting the loss assigned. So loss.item is going to help us understand what the loss is at that particular iteration. Okay, but I need not check for it now. So once I have loss defined, I'm going to implement the backward propagation where all the gradients are computed. All gradients are computed in this particular step. So once backward propagation also is done, we are going to make use of invoking this particular step function where we update all the parameters. So let's comment here and then write it as update model parameters. Okay. So once the model parameters are updated, so we are essentially going to zero out all the gradients, but I would like to zero out all the gradients before the initial step itself. So opt.zeroGrad is going to help us achieve that. So now all the steps are written within it. For every epoch, at the end of every epoch, now I'm planning to see or report what the average loss is. So for every epoch, now you have multiple iterations that are conducted. So for iteration 1, you might have one loss, indicating it as loss 1 or MSE1. For iteration 2, you must have loss 2, indicating with loss 2 here, so on and so forth. Likewise, you'll have n different losses for every epoch. Now I'm going to consider averaging out all of these losses. So I need to store somewhere. I'm defining a new list object here, an empty list object before the inner for loop. I'm appending all the losses that we have computed in every single iteration here to this particular list here called losses. I'm appending loss.item, which is going to produce a resultant MSE value that's computed for that particular batch. So once this is done, so we're now going to compute the average loss value, sum of all the losses that we have observed divided by total number of iterations that are conducted here. For that, I'm creating a new variable called iters. I'm adding one at the end of every single iteration so as to understand the total number of iterations that are done for every epoch. Now we have the average loss captured for every epoch. So now I'm going to define another list object called average loss values. This is an empty list before, and we're also understanding how many epochs that it went through, also capturing all the epochs in an empty list at the beginning, but it won't be empty in the interim epochs that we are conducting. So I'm going to append this average loss that we have computed to average loss vals, and also going to append the epoch value to epoch vals here. That's it. We're now going to run this whole statement. We are conducting all the 100 different epochs, and every epoch underwent multiple iterations. Now you can inspect the different average losses that are stored. So there will be as many number of average losses as the number of epochs that we have conducted. So in total, there have to be 100, right? So now we can create a simple plot by using matplotlib in order to understand how the loss is varying with different epochs that we have conducted. Cool. So now let me import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, and now I'm going to create figure and axis objects using plt.subplots function. So ax.plot function is going to help me, or plot method here to be more precise, is going to help me present this particular data in the form of a plot. So on x-axis, you would like to have the epoch values, and on y-axis, I would like to have the average losses that we have observed. ax.set x label, we are going to set a particular label to the x-axis where we can call it as epoch. I'm setting an arbitrary size, which is a font size here, to 14. ax.set y label is going to set a label to the y-axis, the same arbitrary size of 14. Finally, plt.show is going to present the plot to us here. So we clearly understand that as the number of epochs increased, the overall loss that we have observed decreased a lot. And this is an elbow point that we are observing somewhere around 5th or 6th epoch. I do not know unless I go about printing or reducing the xtick labels here. So if I reduce these xtick labels from 0 to 20 to 0 to 5 or 10, I would preferably have a fair understanding on what is the right epoch value that I'm supposed to consider for retraining the model. So I understand that the epoch value is somewhere close to 5. So now I rebuild this particular model by changing this value from 100 to 5. And then whatever weights and biases that are updated at the end of fifth epoch are necessarily going to be the right weights and biases, because there's no point in continuing the training process beyond that. It's pretty flat. We're not seeing any improvement in the loss even after this particular 20th epoch. So there's no point in continuing our training process beyond a specific elbow point. Okay. So this is one experimentation that we can conduct in order to understand what could be the right epoch value. But there are multiple other cases where you can perform proper hyperparameter tuning. That's one of our subject of our discussion in our upcoming session. But for now, please understand on how we have come up with this particular regression model by using multi-layer perceptron architecture. Okay, we have implemented this custom class called MLP. Using this custom class object that we have created, so we conducted a forward propagation, and we necessarily have implemented all of the steps in every single iteration. We conducted multiple epochs so as to understand what could be the average loss captured at every single epoch. And we clearly have created a model with minimal loss, somewhere close to probably like 7 or 8. Right? We have observed our MSE to come down to 7, but whereas in our earlier sessions, we have understood the MSE was somewhere around 45 using a simple linear regression model. Using a simple linear regression model, which essentially had only one neuron involved, we observed an MSE value of 45, but using a multi-layer perceptron architecture where the non-linear aspects of X are learned properly by hidden layer 1 and 2, we observed a loss or MSE value of 7. We see a huge gap in between these two loss values that we have computed in the whole process. So that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss with you in this session. And thanks for watching.